Welcome everyone to the PJ's Cast. I'm your host Pierce, alongside of my good pal Dylan, and we're recording after the roster freeze at 3 p.m. We were originally going to record right at 3 p.m. Eastern, but I had to do some errands before 4 p.m. Eastern, and man, am I glad we did that so we could talk about the Nick Bukestad trade to the Devils. Woo! Devils! Biggest trade involving a team from the New York metro area in the last hour, I would say. But all jokes aside, um, where do you, where do we want to start on the Panarin trade? Because before we get into the actual trade, fuck NHL insiders, dude. Are you
You
fucking
guys
kidding
all
me?
suck at your
You get
job. It's
you get
crazy.
out scooped by fucking Adam Schefter. Fuck right
Adam
off.
Sandler
Hand your
just caught Adam
credentials in.
Sandler.
We're
Adam
done
Schefter
here.
just, dude, caught them all with the dick
Shut
in his
up.
hand, or the dick in their hands. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like the biggest trade of the season, and all you guys got caught lacking. Like, dude, Schefter did this with the NBA too today. He's like, I'm just going to show these idiots what's up. I got more than just football sources, but
Crazy.
yeah, they all stink.
Speaking of
They all
NBA,
stink at their
before we get in
job.
the
Like, how
trade,
many times was it reported, like, oh, there's 6 teams involved? And now they're, like, all reporting, like, well, it was only going to be LA. It's like, well, according to, like, 2 days ago, that's not what anyone was saying. So either you
no.
guys are all full of shit, which is what I've said for months now, that I think all these insiders don't have any sources anymore, or at least credible ones. They all kind of just piggyback off each other, but no one did for this one. It just makes our league look like a joke, and it is. It is a joke. This whole this trade in a nutshell should show you how dumb this league is, and why they're the fourth. They're the fourth best league, and they always will be. Even with the NBA probably on the down spiral, everyone in that league just wants to throw around picks like they're caught going out of style
I
and
wanted to
trading
say
players
Chris
just to
Paul to the
trade.
Raptors, by the way. I found that funny.
Like the Bulls are just
But
trading
they
people to
reminded
trade
them.
people. Like this is like the NBA just does this. The NHL, it's like we're not going to make a trade unless we absolutely need to, but we really didn't need to, but we're going to pretend like we did. Because the reality is they could have waited till March. They could have. But they didn't. They didn't. They put a deadline on themselves. Like when did
When they did
Panarin get
not need
benched? Like
to.
2 weeks ago.
Wait,
For
no. When I wanted to say this, so when we recorded the podcast, that was the day that Panarin got set. So that's exactly a week from today. Yeah, you did not have to sit him that early. You could have waited. Yeah, he has the no movement clause, but you could have waited things out and see if you could have gotten more. And like, yeah, the roster freeze I think is like 2.5 weeks. So there is still a month till the trade deadline, but it's more like week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at most. I don't know the exact time frame, but it's less actual days because of the roster freeze. But they 100% could have waited this out. And I don't know if you were ever going to get the return you wanted to, anyways, just because Panarin has the leverage. But this just feels incredibly underwhelming, especially what was reported out there. And I don't believe the fact that Panarin only wanted to go LA. That just feels like James Dolan pointing a gun at everyone's head, be like, "No, that's all we could do." That's what it feels like.
and they're not going to change anything. He loves the GM. Drury's his buddy. Like it's a
He's
giant
puppet.
boys club in New York. I really do feel bad
Mm-hmm.
for Rangers fans. Like if you're
Oh,
going
I
to be
feel
a boys
horrible
club,
for our good friend Connor Boomer. I'm so
oh
sorry,
yeah,
Connor.
100%. Like
Horrible.
I told him to focus on the Cowboys, which is crazy because that should be normally the other way around. Um,
Hey, the
yeah,
Mets
we're
got
up time out
Bichette
there.
and Robert now, and Soto and Lindor. You're good. It's like
But like my whole thing, yeah, he's got the Mets. He's fine with the Mets.
the
And most New
Mets,
York fans can fall back on their
Spider-Man.
baseball teams. Like they're gonna be fine. But I just hope for the Rangers' sake they've kind of changed around their development and their scouting because you're gonna get a top 5 pick this year, and the top 4 is looking pretty damn solid. So if you mess this up, that's 100% on you. Like you might have Gavin McKenna fall into your lap. You might have Ivar Stenbark fall into your lap. You might have a Keaton Bearhall fall into your lap, and then you can trade Adam Fox like you always wanted to. Because I think that's coming this summer too. At this point, like I said that the moment he didn't make the Olympic team, but now the writing I think is definitely on the wall. I think the only guy that's sticking around is probably Shesterkin and Miller, which is ridiculous. But
Not even Calendry, JT.
malpractice by the Rangers. Like I think you mentioned, we were texting about it earlier. You said it best. Like the only team that came out of this well is LA because LA just had a superstar fall into their lap,
And they didn't
and
do anything. It fell right into their lap.
they didn't give up anything
Like,
on the roster. I like Liam Greentree as a prospect, but He's not really as big of a play driver as Panarin, clearly. And this is a guy who still is point a game. He's still an offensive dynamo. Yeah, he might not be the best defensively, but he's going to get you 30 goals, 50 assists minimum a year if he's healthy. I think he was well over a point a game this year for the Rangers before he got shut down. And you look at the Kings, this is a team that they just lack that extra offensive piece. We talk about it with teams like LA, Seattle, Carolina, like a lot of these teams that play pretty well structured hockey, but they don't have the offensive firepower to kind of put them over the top. And I mean, that's been the Kings' MO, except the last year with the Oilers, because they were averaging 6 goals a game and losing. But
Jim Hiller, baby.
A player like this is going to help your centers. Your centers are your weak point on that team still. Byfield still hasn't taken that step, but this could definitely help him. And I just look at the wingers that they have on this team. Like you look at the power play where it's going to be Kempe and Kuzmenko. Like that's
lethal. Yeah,
that's disgusting. Brant Clark starting to flourish a little bit. LA's in that Vegas spot where it's just they have so many overtime losses. A guy like Panarin is definitely going to help when you get to extra time.
Fuck this fucking league, dude. Sorry
yeah, the loser point's going to have to get changed this summer because there's 2 teams that are on pace to break the record in the same division. And, there's teams that have more regulation wins that aren't even going to sniff the playoffs. Like, I think the leading regulation win team in the Pacific is San Jose. So do with that what you will. Oilers still haven't cracked a 3-game win.
And the Hawks have more regulation wins than them, I'm pretty sure. Like, it's so fucking stupid.
No, it's a dumb league. It's a dumb league. If you just went by wins and losses, we wouldn't be in this situation. You'd realize who the good teams are, and you realize there's a crap ton of mid in the league right now. But that's the parity that Bettman wants. So, good for him.
Can't wait for this experiment to be over, man. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and they got Panarin retained half, so they still have room to make a move if they want to. Like, Kings still have $8 million after all this. They can go big game hunting if they want to. Again, like, I know they were in on, like, Forsberg a couple years ago. Like, there's going to be some guys out there, I think. So, could be very interesting. It could be a very interesting deadline because now, like, obviously this move is made, but the Kings have a month to kind of recoup and see where their team's at going into that final stretch before the actual deadline. And, it's a team where I don't think pick 20 is going to help you. You know what I mean? And you still have that to use and your second. And, they have decent prospects, not the best, but, there's players that could be dealt. Green Tree is probably at the top of that, but you got Panarin for him, so can't be mad there. And then Kemper's on fire. So, like, if you can get him a little more offensive firepower, like, the Pacific's up for grabs. So, like, I love what LA's done here. I wanted to give them some credit because I think we're going to spend the next couple minutes bashing the Rangers. So, I just wanted to jump in and give the Kings credit because, they've been well known as a team that when they make the move, it's usually either questionable or it's something like the Gavrikov move, which was good on paper and good on the ice, but it just the puzzle pieces never connected. This is something where they're actually trying, and it's good to see. I think it's really good to see, and also it's just another good Russian player going to LA at the end of his career. Not going to take that out of the perspective either, literally. But yeah, LA, tip of the cap.
And I really don't think they had to do anything. They might have been calling, but to me, it just feels like Artemi Panarin's agent saying, "Oh, we'll extend in LA." And then Ken Owen's like, "Oh, okay. Oh, we'll do that. Oh, no one else wants to extend it." Like, just the only winner to me in this is LA. And I don't even know if I would put Panarin as a winner because the talk was that he could go somewhere and get 50 million over 4 years. And he could have, and I know the big thing for him is he wanted security. He didn't want to go to a team and then go back to free agency. And at the end of the day, he holds all the leverage. He can do what he wants. If that's what he wanted to do, then he goal accomplished. But I don't know. If I was Panarin, I would have gone to Tampa. Tampa's just so good, and just seen where it had gone. If you can't re-sign in Tampa, whatever. I would have tested the market and got a lot of money. But I guess at this point of his career, where he's in his pushing his late 30s now, he just wants stability. But only 11 million 2 years. Yeah, there's just so much to this where I'm baffled. Like, Ken Holland is sitting in the office, like, looking at the Dodgers just making all the big moves, seeing the Lakers last year trade for Luka Doncic. He's like, why can't that be us? And then he gets a phone call like, here's Artemi Panarin, and you can just give us like a decent prospect and a draft pick. And the funny thing is, looking at the conditions of that draft pick, it's what was it, a third round pick that turns to a second if they advance to the second round, which to
They're
begin
going to get
with,
cut by the Oilers. Like it's the
yeah,
worst trade ever, honestly. Like they somehow made that Patrick Kane trade and that Taylor Hall trade from years
yes,
ago, where
that's what I
everyone
was
was like,
thinking.
"What
Patrick
does that
Kane,
return?" Made it look worse,
yeah,
or made it look better.
hmm
Sorry, they made their trades look better because at least they got a higher draft pick.
yeah,
And the Hawks, I think, have put pretty good use to their draft picks in the second round. I think that one got traded to help get Boisvert, so we take those. But or it might have been Vanacker. I don't know. Regardless,
either way, they
that's
moved
why
up.
you want a higher pick, so you have the capital to kind of make those moves. And you look at a lot of these rebuilding teams; they've gotten creative. San Jose's gotten creative. Anaheim's gotten creative. Chicago's getting creative somewhat. Their definition of creativity is a little different than those other teams. But I mean, let's put reality where it's at. They got a second for taking on Dickinson. They're probably going to get another second letting him go. So it's just good roster management. And I think the Rangers can take some notes from that. But at the same time, every other day they're giving someone an extension. So I don't really know what's going on there anymore. And you still have assets to sell. Like, God, I actually think Vincent Trocheck might get traded now, especially if Bill Guerin's delusional enough, because I know they still want a center.
I
So,
think they're in fire sale mode.
spoiler.
I think they're gonna make a lot of trades.
Yeah, spoiler for my trade prediction or later. But yeah, I just think you got to sell for the Rangers. You got to get a lot of assets, and you got to restock that cupboard because let's be honest, outside of like Perot, that cupboard's looking pretty empty right now.
Barron,
And
yeah,
EJ Emery's looking okay, but that's not someone who's going to move the needle. That's like a number 5 defenseman. Um, on the bright side, you still have an elite goalie. Got Shesterkin locked up. I know he's banged up right now, but he's still the best, one of the best in the world. And if they don't ship him out this summer, you'll still have one of the better defensemen in the NHL, and Adam Fox and Vladislav Gavrikov. Like there's pieces there, but you really need that top 4 pick this year. I think you need that Stenberg, McKenna, Lawrence, something like that. But knowing them, they'll probably take Belshets because he's big and he hits and he fits what the U.S. wants. Sorry, New York Rangers, fitting what they want. So don't feel good for Rangers fans at all right now. This has got to be tough, especially because they already did. Like, it's got to suck because you saw them do it semi-right the first time. And then there was just a couple hiccups along the way. You lose to a couple Florida teams in the conference final, and that's an end of an era all of a sudden. Like, it feels like yesterday Panarin signed that contract in New York and took less money because he was originally going to go to Florida or the Islanders, who offered more. And he wanted New York. He wanted the Big Apple. And sounds like a guy who wants what he wants. And I think we've known that for 7 years now. So anyone who's surprised by him, wanting one thing and, getting his way, you shouldn't be that shocked, personally.
Yeah, and I think another thing that doesn't get talked about with the Rangers as much, 2024, the Panthers destroyed them in the conference final, and same with the Lightning a couple years previous. In 2018, when Jeff Gorton sent out that letter that we are going to rebuild, and everything went their way, the trades they made, and then you get Artemi Panarin in free agency, and you're able to transition from one franchise goalie to another, from Lundqvist to Shesterkin. Adam Fox only wanted to play in New York, so you're able to get him. You get Alexis Lafreniere first overall. You think he's going to come in and immediately impact your lineup and help you win a Stanley Cup. But then in 2021, the shortened season, Tom Wilson destroyed the mindset of that franchise. They got rid of Jeff Gorton, who is incredible at building hockey teams, not just with the Rangers, but I remember before that in Boston, I think it was 2006. I think in the draft they got Marchand, Lucic. I think he made the trade for Tuukka Rask. Don't quote me on that, but in a short time, he was able to make all those moves. He did those moves with the Rangers, and then James Dolan, because of Tom Wilson, fired those guys that were running the Rangers, who could have been even better than what they did in 2022 and 2024. And now you got a puppet in Chris Drury, and here you are with I don't even know what to say, but it's just horrible with the Rangers right now. And it's one thing that they're keeping Drury around, and you bring up the first round pick. They could have a top 5 pick this year. I have zero confidence that they're going to be able to develop McKenna or Stenberg. And I think the same of Greentree. Do you think he's going to amount to anything when fucking Tanner Glass and Jed Ortmeyer are your player development personnel? Like, can we at least start there? Like, we kind of joke around about it all the time. Like usually it like one change doesn't like it's usually a deeper issue, but it's like the scene from Whiplash. Oh, it was your fucking chair? That's all you had to fucking do. And sometimes that does work. Maybe you just gotta switch Tanner Glass and Jed Ortmeyer to someone who actually knows what they're doing because they haven't been able to develop a forward worth a fuck the past. It really seems 15 years. Even when they went to the Stanley Cup final in 2014, who was the star on that team? I can't like Marty, you like 40-year-old Marty St. Louis was your big star. They haven't had a star center in God knows how long. They've always had to trade for their big players and then they disappear in the playoffs. Like they just need a total reset with their player development, but I don't think that's going to happen. Like Lafreniere first overall, I don't know if he was going to be in the tier of like McDavid, Matthews, or whoever, but he should still be a top 6 guy, and I have no doubt he'll go somewhere else and do that. But yeah, I have zero faith they're going to be able to develop any forwards. Defensemen, they can do that. Goaltending, they're fine. But if you can't get elite forwards, homegrown elite forwards, the best one I can think of in the cap era for them, like when in the cap era, like before the cap era, they would just buy teams. It's Chris Kreider. I can't think of anyone else. I'm just kind of in my mind going through the draft picks. 2019 Capo Caco, you traded him. 2017, Lias Anderson, Filipino. Like Lias Anderson was a bust. Filipino, you traded for JT Miller, and yeah, like they traded their first round picks a bunch of years, but I can't think of one hit. But anyways, I'm ranting on the Rangers. I would love to have Connor on to see what he thinks about the Rangers, and we'll definitely have him on soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was coming today. I think like you texted me, Cam Robinson said a couple hours ago, like
Yeah.
this is probably getting done today. And that seemed the reality once he got benched, or not benched, but shut down until he got traded.
Mm-hmm.
But I just hope for their sake Liam Greentree turns into a player because he's a goal
I do
scorer.
too.
So he
Yes.
might be like a
Mhm.
30 goal scorer for him, but you need someone to pass him the puck. And unless it's that top 4 pick, I don't know who's passing him that puck. Because I know JT Miller sure as hell isn't. Which, first of all, like they got that guy. How do you get a guy like before he was good and then after he was good?
We talked about
How
him
is that?
last
Well, I guess
podcast. Yeah.
the Hawks do love doing that too, but that's a whole other thing. Just a lot of head scratching moves in New York, and the roster's old, and there's not a lot of depth, and it's pretty bleak. For being honest, it's pretty bleak, and it's probably going to be bleak for at least the next 2 years.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go from there, to be honest. And like, yeah, the Rangers are losers in this, but I just can't help but think the other teams, man, to me, it was just dependent on Panarin wanted to go to LA, but did Tampa Bay not put together a good enough offer for that? And then the funniest part, them going to Washington and San Jose. Can we get Ryan Leonard? Can we get Will Smith? Like, no, that's not going to happen. And then your next option is Liam Creature. Like, there couldn't have been something in the middle, you know? Awful.
Yeah, it's just I don't think it's the best run. Like, and you look at teams like look at the team that's right across the river. Or I don't know the exact place, but the
Yeah.
Islanders, like Matthew Darsh, is being extremely clever with the way he's moving around assets, and he's making the team better for a playoff run while not hindering the future. And they're getting younger. Like, and maybe it won't be this year, but they're slowly starting to get some young players trickling through their prospect system. And obviously, they got the number 1 pick, and he's going to win Rookie of the Year because he's electric. But you know, it's got to be rough. And then you look at Buffalo; they're finally getting it all together up north. So it's like you in New Jersey gotta have to figure it out. At least New Jersey's got a plethora of talent right now. They just can't stop a nosebleed, and they have no bottom 6 scoring. But you know, maybe Nick Bukestad fixes that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Ugh, jeez. Yeah, they're rough out there in Ranger Land. Rough out there in Ranger Land for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could rant for the Rangers for on and on, but we are going to do an Olympic preview, and then we're going to do some mock trades later, and there's a couple other things I want to touch on. But do you have any I know thoughts on the Panarin trade? Because nothing's coming to mind without me just tearing apart the Rangers more.
No, I just hope the Rangers keep losing games for their sake. Don't go on some
Yeah,
crazy
they're
March win streak and F up your draft pick.
Oh, that would just be the worst. Yeah, They're worse than the Hawks right now by 3 points. So yeah, that says everything right
I
there.
mean, they've been shut out like a fifth of the year, so that should be the like. You look at Panarin's point totals and then realize that they've been shut out like 9 games this year. Like it's impressive, honestly. They're a tire fire.
Yep. Yeah, they do have 2 first-round picks this year. They have 3 third-round picks to the Rangers. Again, am I confident they're going to do anything with them? No, but I would love for them to just like switch around their amateur scouting department, pro scouting department, and just player development in general. One success story they have had is Will Cooley. We'll give them to that, but I mean, has Gabe Perreault even done anything? Yeah, it's rough. But if I'm the Rangers, and I would trade JT Miller. Like I know a lot of these guys have no movement clauses, but you might as well just like do a full teardown if you can. Even Adam Fox, like that would hurt to trade one of the best defensemen in the NHL.
Get
But
you
if he wants
pieces though.
out, like you would probably want something similar to a Quinn Hughes return, and that would help a lot. Igor Shesterkin, I don't think. I don't, who would want Igor Shesterkin? Like I know you would want an elite goalie, but like you never get back what you want for goalies. We've seen goalie trades over the past couple of years. I think of the Allmark one, the Markstrom one. You just never get what you think you're going to get back for an elite goalie, especially one like Igor Shesterkin. So I think they just keep him. But everyone else, yeah, they're for sale. Even Braden Schneider, I would put in there. He's got interest. I don't think he's that good, but young right-handed shot defenseman teams are gonna love that at the deadline. So yeah, I would just put everyone out there, and I would put Alexi Lafreniere in there as well. Everyone, anyways. Um, what do you want to talk about next? Do you want to talk about the Blackhawks, or do you want to talk about Barry Trotz stepping down in Nashville?
We can talk about Barry. Let's dig into it.
Yeah, so Barry Trotz is stepping down, but they're looking for a replacement right now, but haven't found that yet. So he could conceivably be with this team through the trade deadline and into the summer. I don't know if they'll find anyone during the Olympic break, but yeah, I really that big winning streak they had in 23-24. I think it was in February, March, and on in April, really, where they missed the U2 concert and they won however many games in a row, and they just went on a crazy streak and were able to make the playoffs. And then you make all these big moves in free agency, Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos, Brady Shea. You just lent out all of this money, but you have such an old team now, and they're kind of like the Rangers in a way where they haven't been able to develop any high-end forwards recently. So at least in the case of the Predators, the ownership sees that Barry Trotz is not getting it done, and they're going to have to switch up their philosophy and how they develop forwards and all that stuff. Because they've been great with defensemen, they've been great goalies. They're kind of like the Rangers. They really are. There's a lot more similarities, but I wonder if they are going to do a complete full teardown, because they're not that far out of a playoff spot right now. Like they can conceivably do again what they did a couple years ago and make the playoffs, because the West is so open. But man, your players are just getting older and older, and I don't think you have much coming up through the pipeline. So yeah, I say that 26, 23, and 6. They're only 5 points ahead of the Blackhawks, but they're only 3 points out of the second wild card spot. So I don't know. Like, if you're Barry Trotz, what do you do before the deadline? Are you selling, or do you want to buy and maybe hope that this team can make another playoff run, or do you just stand pat?
I would think you sell, but
Yeah,
Nashville
I mean
has
that's
been
what I
known
would
as
do.
one that thinks they can just go to a U2 concert and everything will get fixed. So they might just hope that another late March crazy run is in their books right now. And, credit to them, the West is wide open. So, all it takes is a 5-game win streak and you're probably right back in the mix. So I would sell. They got some really good assets. I like one of my trades that I put involves one of them, but I just think that roster is only getting older. They're not getting younger. There's no high end young prospect waiting in the ballots for you. There's no high end goalie anymore waiting in there for you. Um, you gotta find a way to recoup that prospect pool. And I really wonder with the Predators, if they are going to take that direction, like this is the time if you want to get off that Steven Stamkos contract, is going to be the best time to do it. I don't
So
know if
high
he
right
wants to
now.
leave. I think Stamkos has protection, so like he probably won't leave. But like the guy's on pace for 40 goals again. He's scoring at will. I don't think you're going to get his value this high ever again. And maybe they're at a spot where it's like, hey, he'll just be our $8 million cap hit, and he'll get us to the floor, or we just want him around. But Marcia Show was in rumors forever. Stamkos has been on and off in rumors. O'Reilly apparently has an invisible no move clause. I just think you really could.
Fucking thing, man.
You can flip your prospect pool overnight if you trade those three guys, and you still have Forsberg, you still have Yossi, you still have these key core pillars of the franchise, and Saros. But you get a little bit younger. You recoup some assets off some mistakes you made 2 years ago in free agency, and maybe have a better draft, because I don't think they're drafting for ceiling. And they haven't for the last couple of years. Like I like Matthew Wood, but there were definitely better high ceiling players at the time. And he's not a bad NHL player by any means, but you look at the guys that they drafted, like the Kamels and all this. It's
I
just
just think of Brady Martin. You could have had Jimmy Hagens there, Porter Martone, and you see, like, you pick a guy who you want to be a Sam Bennett, which is a fine player, but when you're drafting that high, you want to aim for a
overall.
superstar.
And I get it. Sam Bennett was picked fourth, but Sam Bennett was also at one point projected to be way better of an offensive player than he ended up being.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. And maybe the new GM will come in and have a different direction, clearly, because I don't think the direction Trotz was taking the team was good. And we see it time and time again. Some people just aren't built to be a GM. And he's a hell of a coach. He's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. I think he already is. He might be, but
he's a Nashville legend because the Predators have never been bad. Like, they had their first few years where they sucked just like every expansion franchise did, but Trotz kept that team really competitive. And it seems like even after he left, he's instilled it in that franchise. Like, Nashville has never really been bad. I can't remember the last time they were picking top 5, even top 10, but maybe that's the time. Well, this year they might be picking top 10, but maybe it's the year to pull the plug and see what veterans you can move.
It's a seller's market too, man. It's a seller's market. You could get so much for these players. And maybe it's not just because of what we just saw with the Panarin trade, but like Kiefer Sherwood got 2 seconds. Like I just think the market is there for players that they have, and no one else can compete with the plethora of it. Like Rasmus Anderson's gone. Like that's not something that's going to be on anyone's radar. Panarin's off the radar as well. Like who's the next big fish that's up to get traded? Nashville could completely pounce on that market. Like you look at St. Louis, they're probably going to offload some guys, but I just think if you get rid of Ryan O'Reilly, if you get rid of Steven Stamkos, which I don't think can happen, but like Jonathan March's show, if you could find a way to move off these guys. Hell, I know you just signed him, but if you sell high on Nick Perbix, that could get you a pretty good return. He's a right-handed shot. Get creative. Get creative. And Nashville's been the team to get creative in the past. Hell, they traded Ryan Johansson for Ryan Johansson for Seth Jones. Like they make these trades. They traded for PK Subban for Shea Weber. Like they're going to need another one of those trades, I think, to kind of spark this. I think that's what they thought 2 summers ago was, but the writing's on the wall of what the team is. Like they're not going to be upper echelon, especially in the Central Division with that 3-headed monster at the top. I think you just got to read the room. You got to read the room, and I think a team like Winnipeg's probably going to read the room too, but they won't. St. Louis clearly read the room.
Show day off moment.
Chicago's read the room. I think Utah's probably going to buy because their owner's extremely aggressive. You got to pick a lane. I think you just got to pick a lane, especially in this conference, because if you don't, you'll end up where you've been the last. When did they win the President's Trophy? Like 2018. Like this is where they've been since 2018. So
since after that, yeah.
Something's got to give.
And last year, I remember when St. Louis went on their second half crazy tear like they did in 2019. It's like, okay, how many times can you rely on this to happen? It's crazy enough that you got it happened in 2019 and you got a cup out of it. Now you're going to expect this to happen again. I think Nashville is just expecting that they're going to go on another crazy tear to make the playoffs, and I just don't think that's a recipe for success. And teams can rebuild, like whatever word you want to use, because rebuild, retool, refresh, whatever the fuck, whatever reword. I just look at what the Boston Bruins did last year, and I have them including in my mock trades, and I have a really big one with them. You can easily, I think they were only a few points out of the playoffs last year at the trade deadline, and they admitted they waved the white flag because they saw that they could not compete with teams like Toronto, Florida, and Tampa Bay. They were like, okay, those are the top guys in the Atlantic. Yeah, we might make the playoffs, but what are we going to do with them? And now a year has passed. It seems like they have really done a good job of retooling. I think a lot of that goes to their pro scouting with all the players they were able to find with like Morgan Geeky, Kuznetsov. They got the trade deadline last year, Fraser Min, and that's completely re-injected that young core. And now the Atlantic Division is a lot more open than it was last year. And not necessarily saying the same thing is going to happen with the Central, but right now you have so many valuable pieces that you could sell and get a bunch back for. And then maybe next year you can compete and be back in a wild card spot. But yeah, at the end of the day, you want to. Obviously, the thing is winning the Stanley Cup, and I think they're still a little ways from that. And I don't know if they have the high end talent to do that. Maybe in the wingers, but like they don't have a center. Roman Yossi isn't getting any younger, and same with UC Saros. I would just sell and look at everyone, especially like Philip Forsberg and Roman Yossi. Just gauge and maybe see what you could get for them and what teams would be interested in if they would be interested in moving.
Yeah, I just think you got to read the room, like I said, like you said, like the market's there. It's the time to get creative, and you have a month to kind of game plan, or not a month, but like 3 weeks to plan how to get creative at that.
Yeah, you can't make trades, but you still have
To prepare.
2.5 weeks to prepare. Like, yeah, you won't be able to make an official one, but you can put down things in writing with other GMs while the Olympics.
You can start scouting, seeing what you need, seeing who would be interested in what. You could start putting feelers out there. But that's what smaller organizations do. They might just fly by the seat of their pants and go trade. Like, go make another Colton Sissons, Jeremy Lauzon trade. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go do something like that to get you more assets. But in reality, they'll probably like put Alex Carey on waivers again or some shit. Something stupid.
Yeah, like I think all the like Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault, they have no movement clauses. Same with Roman Yossi, obviously. But I don't want to keep bringing up the point of Ryan O'Reilly. Them treating him like he has a no movement clause is the stupidest fucking thing. But they should 100% trade him. Like, I'm pretty sure the Devils were interested in him last year. Are you telling me teams aren't going to want a guy? Where do you put him on a Stanley Cup winning team? Like, ideally, you have him as a third line center for $4.5 million. Yeah, and he is like a former Selke winner. He's the guy who's won a Conn Smythe before. Like, that's your perfect third line center for the playoffs. Teams would love that. Teams should love a Michael Bunting at 4.5. Predators could easily retain on that. I think teams would like Eric Howell as well. Like, who on the Predators is safe? Like Steve Dangle says, what are we preserving here? Who do you want to keep in Nashville long term? I think just about everyone here can go if there's a proper trade for it.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's a seller's market, and they have the assets that people are looking for. So, but their group think BS could just be like, oh well, we have all those guys. We can make a run. We just need all of our guys to shoot at a 20% clip for the next 6 weeks. And Saros to stop, 19 out of 20 shots a game. Just normal stuff. Read the room. Read the room. Read the room. San Jose can have fun because they've been in the basement. You can't. You need to pick a direction. Like Minnesota, as much as I give them shit, they picked a direction. They said we're going all in. And I'll give them credit for that. Like, it's going to blow up in Bill Guerin's face, but I'll give him credit. At least he picked a lane because he didn't pick a lane for the last 5 years.
Wait, are we talking about the U.S. Olympic team or the Wild?
Wild. Fuck him. I'm not even giving my time to the Olympic team right now.
Yeah.
I'll get 3 weeks to yell at them.
With Barry Trotz, yeah, thankfully it's not a health issue because I think he's in his early mid 60s. I don't know if he's just done or out of hockey, but it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like he has another job opportunity waiting for him. Like, he's gonna wait this out and wait for another GM to come in. But Man, I wonder if he would go back to coaching, because I think there would be, especially this summer, if they find a GM by the end of the season, there's going to be teams that get kicked out in the first round and would love a Barry Trotz. Like, let's go back to this team, the LA Kings. I think they would love Barry Trotz on their team. I don't know. There'd probably be a bunch, I would think, but I don't think there's been anything conclusive on what Barry Trotz wants to do next. And if he retires, he's easily going into the Hall of Fame. And hopefully he doesn't do anything further with the Predators to damage his reputation as GM, because at best it's been a bumpy ride.
Yeah. Hasn't been smooth sailing from the jump. And, credit to Nashville because they had 20 years of consistency with David Poyle, but, I think you see it with a lot of businesses. You see it with a lot of, franchises, businesses, companies, sports. When you have great leadership for a long time, it's very hard to replicate that. And when you have success with that, very hard to replicate that as well, unless you're the New England Patriots. Fuck yourselves. But yeah, pick a lane, or else you'll just be stuck in mediocrity for the next 5 years.
Do you want to talk about the Blackhawks, or do you want to talk about the Stadium
really.
Series game? They don't, yeah. Like,
Not
what is there
really.
to talk
I'm just
about?
glad the guard's heating up. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
I'm glad
playing.
they beat the Sharks too.
Yeah, they played well against the Sharks, but they're not playing very inspiring hockey right now. Every other game they are, but yeah, they need a break. They need a break, and I just, I can't wait to just see when I'm actually just more excited for next season at this point, because at least I know next season the top 6 is going to consist of people who want to play under 25. So that'll help. But outside of Bertuzzi, because Bertuzzi's just been on fire this year. But it's good to see all the trade assets heat up. Murphy just got like 3 goals in the last 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, turn a freaking Cale Makar. Yeah.
McKay's on a heater, and Dickinson's showing some offensive upside again. So hopefully they can get us some good returns. I think you and I agree we'd like to keep McCabe, but if the price is what it is, you got him for free. That's a player you can give up, and Landon Slager's not going to do what McCabe does, but Oliver Moore can be a McCabe with
you
more
got guys coming up.
Exactly. I'm not stressing too much if we don't re-sign McCabe, but it's going to be a draft or going to be a deadline where Davidson's going to either get creative or he's going to get more assets, and I would hope he gets created at the draft. But who knows? I just I don't know. We're at that point in the hockey season where we just kind of know where they're at, and unless they jump in the lottery, that's just kind of where they're going to be. So, but it's progress. It's progress, like we always say. They're on pace to have 17 more points than last year, so it is a success. It's just now we're at the phase of the rebuild where we got to start cleaning up some stuff, and it's growing pains. It's just what it is.
Yeah, and they're out of the bottom 5 right now. They're in 6th place. They're on pace for 32 wins. So again, that's all I think you and I want, is them to get past that threshold barrier, whatever you want to call it.
Get out of the basement.
Yeah, and they're out of the basement right now. And we can get doom and gloom about the Hawks. I feel a lot of the podcast that goes us ranting and raving sometimes about the Hawks, and then we go on to talk about other teams. I'm like, oh, there's at least a quarter of the NHL that is way worse off than the Hawks. Sometimes it's almost kind of yeah. That's one of the teams. It's to a point where Kyle Davidson is annoyingly, stubbornly following his plan, which I respect, because there are a lot of GMs and ownerships, for that matter, that won't do that. So, yeah, we can complain, but at least there is a direction with this team, and we're kind of starting to see some tangible results because of it. And yeah, there's still a long way to go, but that was always going to be the thing with this, to strip it straight to the studs, like a tornado, just ripping a house off the foundation and leaving nothing left. Yeah, I think they had 23 wins in 23-24. Last year they had 25, and now you're going to be at 32. And hopefully by the end of the season, maybe Frundell comes over, maybe Boisvert signs from college. Lardis is probably going to be called back up. They're going to make trades. I just don't know if they're going to make any trades to make this team better. But I think Connor Murphy is their most valuable asset, simply just because right-handed shot. I think teams are going to want that. And who else is out there as a right-handed shot? Because Rasmus Anderson, that was a big name. And I don't know where Dougie Hamilton might play. So I think Connor Murphy is their biggest asset. If you get a second round pick back for that, I think that's a win. Jason Dickinson, if what Frank Saravalli said it was true, you get a second and a decent prospect. If you get more for Jason Dickinson than what the Rangers got for Panarin, that's another big win. And I would love them to keep Mikheyev, but also if they can get a decent return for him, I would do that as well. But other than that, nothing is really coming to mind on what trades they can make. I don't expect to see them make like a trade other than just selling guys off and making room for the young guys to come up and play.
Yeah, we've been waiting for this all season, and it's gonna suck because like I think Murphy's played more games in the Hawks than Hossa, so he's been around for almost a decade.
Yeah,
So that's gonna
that's
suck.
fucking. He's the second longest tenured Chicago athlete. I think only Ian Happ has been in Chicago longer or playing for Chicago sports teams.
That happens when you got four
Crazy.
teams that suck for the last 5 years. Usually, you
Yeah.
don't keep a lot of those players, but yeah, man. Move on to the deadline. I'm just ready to see Frondell on this team at this point. And then cancel
Yeah.
out next year. And then Lardis gets called up after the deadline. And maybe Korchinski is back up. Or I guess it'd be Renzel full time. But I just want to see that. And it was nice to see a little glimpse of it 2 nights ago. But, you
He
know,
looked
that was
good.
mostly
He's looked good since he's been called back up, and I think he just really refined his game and simplified his game, and hopefully that Lev Shunov can take this break to do that because I know like there's a lot of recency bias when it comes to sports and like we're prisoners of the moment, but I feel people are kind of like overreacting to Lev Shunov being bad the past few weeks because before that I thought he was one of the Hawks' best players, especially on the blue line, and now he's had a couple weeks where it's just like he doesn't look like he belongs in the NHL right now. But also, how many defensemen are in the NHL at his age doing what he can? I just look at him. Very few defensemen I think can do what he can when he's on the top of his game. But then there's points where I'm like, how did you get to this point when you're making like messing up simple plays? Like he can do creative, crazy plays that no one else can do, but he will mess up players that anyone else can do. And
yeah,
it bears your
he's Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. Like it bears repeating having to bring up Ivan Demidov in every conversation that we have with Artem Levshunov, but yeah, it's simple with wingers, and like it's gonna take less time for them to adjust and put up points in the HL. And by the way, Levshunov is still, I think, on pace for 30 points with all the ups and downs and him like hitting all these crossbars and not being able to score goals. I have no doubt in the future he's gonna be able to put up like 50 points on a regular basis, especially if he's going to be on the first power play and passing the puck to guys like Bedard and Nazar and Frundell or whoever the hell else that they add. And I don't want to keep talking about the Blackhawks because we do have other stuff to talk about, like the Olympics and some of our mock trades. But I think one thing on the topic of the Sharks and Blackhawks games, I don't know if you read that article with Ben Pope and like, yeah, the Sharks appear to be further ahead, but like when you break it down, like they're not that, like the Hawks aren't that far behind. Like there's not as big as a gap you might think. And we brought it up earlier with the Hawks do have more regulation wins than the Sharks, but I think the Sharks just have more offensive talent, so they're able to win overtime games. The Hawks can't do that worth a fuck. I hope that's something that gets fixed, and it might just get fixed simply for them bringing in more talent. But the Sharks have more offensive weapons at the front of their lineup, which is, I think, why they're in a playoff spot right now. Celebrating is awesome. That's one thing. But you also got Will Smith, you got William Eklund and Michael Misa. I just think there's more offensive support. But then you look at their defense, it's nowhere near what the Hawks have. I just think this game is tailored more towards offensive teams, whereas the Hawks are a bit more balanced out. So I thought that article from Ben Pope was interesting and puts things into perspective. And I think he put a poll too of how do you think this rebuild is going? And I think 65% of people answered it's going about as well as expected, like not ahead, but not behind. I think it's realistic, like it's not surprising where they are right now.
No, not at all. That I mean, it's there. We're just waiting. It's the waiting part of the rebuild. Like you got the pieces, they're in the incubator right now. You got to wait a little longer. San Jose, they had a top 4 pick the year before they got him. Like, that's just the reality. And he was that was a year where the top 4 is kind of like this year, where it looks like could all be hits. Just happens that way. And, like we talk about it every time about San Jose, their back end and is suspect and their goaltending is inconsistent.
Yeah, Knight's on a different level than Eskarov.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, we saw that the other night. Not that Knight was
Yeah.
incredible that game, but
at the same time, Celebrini is on pace for like 115 points or something like that, 120 points. Like he is.
Oh, it's like 125. Like one of the best.
He's taken just an insane step
besides Gretzky.
Like the goal he had against the Hawks, the puck was on his stick for half a second and he roofed it over Knight's like ear.
Yeah.
Like he's an unreal talent. He's only going to get better. And that helps a team that doesn't have all the pieces yet. And yeah, Bedard does that too to an extent, but he doesn't have a running mate to help amplify his game like that. Like,
no,
I can't stress that enough. Like Nazar's the closest thing he has to that. And then like Bertuzzi's his Toffoli, I guess. But like, I don't know, man. It's different situations. Apples to oranges, in my opinion. Like it's a different rebuild, it's a different style. And we're probably gonna look at both these teams in 5 years, and there's still gonna be a glaring need on the team. And that'll show you why not every team is built the same. And I think the right GMs know that, or the good GMs know that, but the bad GMs, they like to mimic and they like to copy and they like to, mimic what other teams have done for success. And a lot of times that does not work. I mean, Florida was in a decade-long blunder because of that. And, you look at the Blackhawks in 2019, they wanted to be the Blues after that, which made no sense. That's never what they were. But like, this is what happens. Like, it's in a copycat league, or you make your own style. And you look at teams like Tampa, you look at teams like Colorado, you look at teams like, Dallas, for that matter. Like they find ways to consistently, Carolina, they find ways to consistently stay good. And they find ways, I don't know. Like, I know I'm ranting, but it's or going on a tangent. But the whole point is you got, like, I lost my train of thought.
I think, I don't know if this was a year ago, but the best teams in the NHL that have been for the past half decade just go after the best player. They don't really care about play style. Well, I guess like the Panthers find guys that play like the Panthers, but to me, it just feels like they go on getting the best guys, and they just so happen to get a guy like Brad Marchand that can play that gritty style. Same with Matthew Tkachuk. So like, yeah, there is a little bit of play style because the Panthers did switch from Huberdeau to
but they
Tkachuk.
made their own play style. That's the point I'm trying to make. You don't go with the current. You go against the current. And a lot of the teams that go against the current have found success. Like Vegas literally redoes their team every year because they want to win. Tampa has drafted so well 10 years ago that they're still getting benefits from their draft.
Dude, their pro scouting is so good now. I think it's better than their amateurs. They just find guys continually. Like Darren Radish's point per game. What the hell happened?
Ice Hog legend.
All because of Jeremy Colleton. But no, I think a couple other teams messed them up, kind of like Forsling. But anyways.
Yeah, you look at Carolina. I feel like every year I look at their day 2 draft, and I'm just like, there's 3 guys that probably should have been drafted 2 rounds ago that they got. This is how you stay good in the league. And you just look at some teams, they're like, oh, well, we got to be the Panthers. We got to be, like, look at what the Leafs fucking did this year. The Rangers 2 years ago, like, trying to change your identity and your culture because another team succeeded is never the answer. And I look at a team like Washington with Ovechkin for years. I felt like they were doing that. And then they finally just made their own identity in the last 3 years or so. And or not these last 3 years, but the 3 years before they won the cup. And then they won. Like, you just gotta, I'm just a firm believer in this is not a copy. Like, people will say it's a copycat league, but the winners in this league do not copy each other. Except for, like you said, getting the best players available. But that's what good teams
that helps
do,
a lot. I think that's the biggest part of it. Yeah.
But I don't know. Change up your ways, maybe. That's all I'm just trying to make a point of.
Yeah, and Steve Dangle said this, like, no normal person wins the Stanley Cup. You have to be wired a certain way to win a Stanley Cup. And you go over the cup winners of the past 20 years, Cap era, however many back you want to qualify it. And there's definitely levels to how aggressive or fuck you or gritty a team plays for. Like, because at the top, you probably put the Florida Panthers of the last couple of years. You probably put those 2011 Boston Bruins. But I would even put Tampa Bay up there. They're bastards to play against. Like, you didn't think of the Chicago Blackhawks as this gritty team. Like, mentally they were great. Like, they could bounce back from anything, but they weren't a fun time to play against. Like, you don't want to get in the wrong area with Duncan Keith, otherwise he'll slash your face like he did the Jeff Carter. Yeah, like, and like the Washington Capitals, I wouldn't put them up there, but I don't think that was a fun time playing against them. The Penguins, I don't think it was fun going into the corners with Crosby and Malkin. Like, yeah, there's different levels to having to play tough in the NHL. But yeah, just rambling on.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just want to point out Darren Radish, 48 games played, 51 points, 17 goals, and 34 assists. This guy, I think he's a free agent this year. He's gonna get the bag in free agents.
Most obvious shark I've ever seen in my life.
You're so right. Yeah, like he's gonna get $30 million.
Oh, more than that.
And like
more than that.
Yeah, like I think that's bare minimum. Like, because I'm thinking like, I don't know, 6 times 5, 5 times 6. But yeah, at this point, definitely more. And he's been doing it the last few years, not at this level, but 23, 24, 33 points, 82 games. And then last year at 37 points in 73 games. Like, damn, just Tampa Bay pro scouting just at it again. Speaking of Tampa Bay, what did you think about the Stadium Series game? Because that's been the most fun outdoor game I've watched experience in the past however many years. Because we've said this on the podcast so many times. It feels like it just all like it's lost its luster. I remember when they did the 2008 Winter Classic, and that felt special because it was snowing. It was the first outdoor game I think they did since 2003 when Montreal was in Edmonton to play outdoors. And that game was special because it went to overtime, or it went to a shootout. And Crosby got that winner, and it was all snowy outside. But then, like, over the years, then they start adding the Stadium Series games. I wish they would just do one outdoor game a year. But to me, it's kind of like the All-Star Game, where it's more so a local event now than it is a TV event. And just watching that game, it felt like they just leaned into it being such a gimmick, and it felt more fun. The game itself was super fun. Brian Hagel, I think, scored 10 seconds in. Then the Bruins scored 5 unanswered goals. And then there's a goalie fight. We didn't have one for 6 years, and now we've had 2 in the past week or whatever. And then Lightning come back and win in a shootout. And then they shook hands after the game. I think Andrei Vasilevsky said, "Thank you, Matt, for taking on," like, their sportsmanship there. Like, thanks for taking the fight, even though I think Vasilevsky whooped his ass. But yeah, I think like them, like the whole like pirate gimmick. Like, I saw some guys like dressed up, look like they were in the Pirates of the Caribbean, like John Cooper looking like he was in the mob with that suit on. Like, I hope we just see more of that, just leaning into the gimmick, because that's all it is at this point.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is going to be, like you said, it's the most memorable one in at least a decade. Like, biased Hawks fan of me is just thinking, like, since Brouwer scored with like 20 seconds left in the one game, that was fun. Or maybe like Red Wings Leafs in like 2017,
Ann Arbor
tied it up late.
2014. Yeah. That was
I'm talking about the one in Toronto.
Where
the Wings scored like 2 goals in the final 30 seconds, and then Matthews won it in overtime. I think it was like his rookie year. But yeah, that one too at the Big House. Yeah, 100%.
The Ann Arbor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's been memorable ones, but all those are pre-COVID. So that should be a dead giveaway. And, credit to them trying to get them in warmer markets. The weather did Tampa justice.
It was pretty cold.
It was like 30 degrees this last weekend. So for Florida, that's really cold. A lot of these Floridians had their parkas out. But, yeah.
In Canada, we would be in our shorts.
I was in my shorts. Are you kidding me? I was wearing shorts and a freaking hoodie. That was all I was wearing. But, it was a great experience. It was cool to see Tampa really get into it. I saw a lot of friends and family go to the game that live here, and it's like I said, it's a local event.
Where was it again?
Tampa.
No, like what stadium was it at though?
Oh, it was at Raymond James, where the Bucks play.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I was like the swashbuckler.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Miami, or like, John Cooper dressed like Pitbull, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Very Florida. Very Florida. If it was sponsored by Publix, it would have been completed. But Yeah, it was great. I don't know. Like I have outdoor game fatigue, so I turned
Oh,
into
me
that game pretty
too.
late. So like I agree with you. They need to go back to this 1 year, one a year, and it's January 1st, unless like. But their problem is they don't want to compete with college football anymore. So like they have to change their date of the game all the time. And like the year it was the Hawks, it was New Year's Eve. I'll be honest, it fucked up my New Year's Eve. I know it probably fucked up like 45,000 people's New Year's Eves, and it had the lowest ratings yet. Shocker! No one wants to watch a hockey game at 5:30 on New Year's Eve. Like you just got to get the timing right with these things.
That's for the
And
World Juniors, man. Like I think that's more of a draw than an NHL game would be.
like I think Penn State had an outdoor game this weekend that looked electric. McKenna scored in front of like
Yeah,
72,000.
yeah.
But like the element of outdoor hockey is never going to get old. I think it's just the presentation. I'm definitely over. And that's back on this being the fourth best sport.
That's
Unfortunately,
why I like them going gimmicky with like the pirate themed and them just leaning into that because again, if you're at the game like you last year went to the game at Wrigley Field, I bet that's so cool. But watching it on TV, all you're seeing is the ice. You're not seeing anything around it. So, yeah, like what would be a good day? Like, could they maybe do Christmas Eve or something? But the NHLPA, I don't think they
no
allow for
football's
games
got
on
that now,
Christmas Eve.
and
Yeah,
NBA.
that's what I mean. Like.
I think you got to do it January 2nd. I think that's the day you do it, or you just say fuck it and we're gonna do it on New Year's Day because that's the day everyone has off. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a better way to do it. Like honestly, that this weekend might be the weekend to do it now. It's the weekend of the Pro Bowl. It's right in between when the Super Bowl happens. There's
Yeah.
nothing going on besides
Yeah.
the Grammys, and this game happened
Mhm,
before that. This might be the
mhm.
weekend, honestly. Weekend before Super Bowl every year. You control the media, that's for sure. At least your subsection of the media, because obviously NBA trade deadline is going to just blow that out of the water, and the coaching hiring cycle for the NFL and baseball. Like once again, fourth sport, but um, they, I think that might be the weekend. Honestly, at least in terms of marketing and in terms of getting the best rating possible. I think that's it because I think there's too much competition on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day anymore. And I know that's when the game was initially intended to be had, but I don't know. I might just start looking at
Sometimes you
outdoor
gotta
games how the
innovate and be
NFL does
different
international
for your
games. Like
product.
it's just there to grow the game, where the game is at, and for the players it's fine as long as the weather's good at least. Like for NFL they got to go overseas and travel like 12 hours to play a football game, which is ridiculous. But it's to grow the game. So like I just kind of look at the outdoor game like that. Like it's just a novelty. So like your team gets, well, unless you're the Blackhawks, your team gets a team game in London once every like 5 years or some shit. Like there's 9 international games in the NFL this year. That's how I feel about the outdoor games. Like what, the one year there were 2 stadium series, there was a Winter Classic and there was a Heritage Classic. Like that we can never do again. Um
Too
and
much.
I think we need to, like, the guy creative 2 years ago doing Seattle Vegas, like the average hockey consumer is not going to give a shit, unfortunately. Like you and I will, because we're psychos and we're sickos, and anyone listening to this is the ultimate sicko.
You're
But
the 1% of the 1%.
yeah, but like that's not Joe Schmo who turns on the TV. So you got to find a way to make them care. And I think honestly, like we need to have like Toronto, Boston outside, or like
Oh, I don't think that's ever been
Edmonton,
done before.
Colorado outside, or so like
Yeah.
that's what we should do. Get McDavid and like. Ironically, you know what? The last memorable one was actually the one they did on Lake Tahoe. That one was really cool with the
I was gonna
7-hour
bring that
delay
up
because of the
because there's
sun.
at least it was something different. Like, yeah, it didn't work out, but hey, you tried something different and it's fine. It didn't work out. Like my
It's
dream
memorable
is
though.
Because do you remember from that game, Nathan McKinnon is skating up on Alex Pietrangelo, who is mic'd, and he's like, "Oh fuck," and then he scores.
But like that's my point. Like make the next Winter Classic Nathan McKinnon versus Connor McDavid. Make it the Bruins versus the Leafs. Let's get rid of New York entirely.
Yeah.
And Chicago doesn't
Yes.
need one unless it's against San Jose when they're good. Like genuinely, that should be the next Winter Classic if Chicago gets one.
Yeah.
Is against San Jose.
Yeah.
But that's not for another 3 or 4 years. Like I think you really got to look at some of these rivalries in the league. Like, dude, Colorado Dallas outdoors would go nuts. Like and they did pick rivalries for a while. Like Hawks Blues, Hawks Wild, like that shit was outside. I know they do like Bruins Flyers and shit, and everyone gets hyped about that. But like, I'm talking current playoff rivalries. Like, no bullshit. if they just did Florida versus Tampa, probably would have went nuts. Like, still didn't go nuts with Boston, but like, that's the point. It's two rivals on an outdoor game with 60,000 people. It should be that every time. It shouldn't be, oh, we got to watch, I don't know, like, I can't even remember the 3-winner class before that. I think there was like a New York versus New Jersey one. Like, it's just, no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit because who is turning on their TV when the college football playoffs on to watch Artemi Panarin versus Brock Nelson? Like, no one gives a shit, honestly. So, like, get the stars in the game. Thank God Tampa and Boston got up for the game because sometimes I feel like the players don't even get up for the game, which is crazy to me. I like to blame it on the ice sometimes. I know the ice can be pretty shitty, but, like, dude, like, that Hawks Winter Classic last year was lethargic at one point. Like, it was bad. Like, I was like, do you guys even want to be on the fucking ice right now? Thankfully, either of those teams in that game didn't do that this time. I didn't think we got to focus on rivalries and outdoor games. I think it would make it better. And I know they did at one point, but I'm talking current playoff rivalries. I'm not talking the shitty Flyers versus the shitty Bruins or the Habs and the Bruins when they're both out of the playoffs. No, I want teams who are good now and have played in the last couple of years. I think that's electric. I think people would buy into it. Like, I don't want to see it, but like Caps Hurricanes might go crazy just because of the history they have in the playoffs. Like,
Wouldn't be a bad one, yeah.
You have options. Like, here's a good example. They did a stadium series with Nashville and Tampa. Who the fuck wants that? That doesn't benefit anyone. Like, you see what I mean? Like, they're just wasting. This is why it's a novelty. You can make it an event again. And hopefully this year was the start of that, because I think it was. But, man, like, you have a 15-year track record, and you probably got you're probably hitting, like, Adam Dunn. Like, yeah, sometimes you knock it out of the park. But that's like one in every, 8 hits now. Like, I don't know. You can make this so much better. They just choose not to because it's cash cow. And that's fine. Like, the All-Star game was too, but now they had to get creative because the All-Star game became lethargic for a decade. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just time for change in the NHL, and you know what the change is happening on the ice.
You know what they did? They innovated and they put, because they haven't played international hockey in almost a decade. They're like, why don't we do the best on best with something at stake? And guess what? We got some of the best hockey we've seen this decade from that Four Nations tournament. Like,
all it took was them using this thing up here. But they don't like to use that. They like to be simple-minded boys club.
And the time that they did the games, it was after the Super Bowl, I believe. And it got very good ratings and viewings. And it was not just like, oh, hockey people watching it. Casuals tuned in. Like, people were talking about it, whether it was good or bad people. Like, people were talking about it. I was
working in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that was the talk of the town at work the next day. Keep in mind, I'm the only dude in that entire office that talked hockey normally. Like, when hockey's good, it can be very, very palatable for the casual viewer. You're making it not palatable right now. And like, ESPN is trying somewhat on broadcast. Like, they really do hype up the stars of the league. But unless you're listening to what they're saying in between whistles watching the game, you're not going to know that. You're just not. And I'll be honest, like, TNT's like C Crew sucked right now. Like, they got 2 guys out of beer league talking about the game right now. And they just, like, they don't know, they don't do the research before the game. Like, I think we just got spoiled with guys like Doc and, John Forsland and people who really do their homework. Like, I don't know, man. I think we've talked about it before, but journalism's dead in sports. It's just what it is.
It's been for a long time. Yeah. And it's not just hockey. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You said sports. But
like,
it's.
For instance, I was listening to like a more national sports podcast, and they didn't even know there was a stadium series this weekend. Like, it's a marketing problem.
Either, so,
it's always a marketing problem.
Yeah.
But that's the NHL. Might as well just name the podcast Fourth Best Sport, because it's literally all we've proven in the last hour. Besides the Blackhawks, they're just doing what they're doing. But like the Panarin trade to this just shows like the incompetency of this league. And
from every aspect of it, whether you're
such a good sport.
When you're covering a team, you're working for a team, you play, like, every aspect, there's so much incompetency, which is why go chase your dreams, because you might make it.
You never know. You just never know with this league, especially this league.
You might just
they're begging for stars, or they're begging for relevancy, but they're not begging hard enough. Let's just put it that way. It's like a
so one
thing
thing
in the distance. Sorry.
Yeah. I wanted to say, so kind of brainstorming ideas for outdoor games. I've always been a proponent of the Oilers and Flames should play on Lake Louise, which is in the Rocky Mountains. But I don't think anyone's going to tune into Oilers and Flames, which is when you said Oilers and
Canada's rating would go nuts
Avalanche.
though for that game.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But if you want to bring in Canada and US, the best way to do it would be Oilers and Avalanche, and you would market it as the Rocky Mountain outdoor, like summit outdoor game, whatever you want to call it. And here I am going to do going to pull up a picture of Lake Louise if you're watching this on YouTube as reference. This is what it looked like. Imagine an outdoor
Oh,
like I don't know how you figured out the logistics of putting a rink there, or maybe you just put it right beside the lake because I think that's what they
like do what you did
do.
with
Whatever they
Tahoe.
did,
They put it right next to it.
yeah, do that and do it like you're not going to do it at night because, but like do it midday, and oh my god, it will be a spectacle. It'll be a compromise. Like you'll get a team from Canada, a team in the US. Maybe the only one thing is there isn't an Eastern team in there, but whatever. You got McDavid versus McKinnon, Bouchard versus McCarr, Draisaitl versus Nichash. Like you can market the hell out of that. You can go so far with that.
Yeah. They have ways to make this creative, like you said. I just need them to put their thinking caps on, please. Like this league is making more money than they've ever made in their lives. Like the next expansion team is going to be like over $1 billion. Like just use your money smart, please. That's all I'm asking.
Dude, hire us. Do you know that episode of SpongeBob where the episode starts off, the Krusty Krab is all dusty, there's cobwebs everywhere because they haven't had a customer in 36 days, and then a fish comes crawling in, and he's like, food, atmosphere, and he's like, a Krabby Patty? That's boring. And then he like goes back crawling, food, atmosphere, and it's like, yeah, sometimes you got to get gimmicky with things. Like, yeah, you are going to the restaurant for the food, but you want the experience too. Like, and that's what I think of with these outdoor games. Like, how can you make so much money with such a dumb idea? How can you make money with such a dumb idea? And then on the TV, how could you not make so much money with such a brilliant idea? Like, that's Gary Bettman as Mr. Krabs. Oh my god! I just wanted to reference the SpongeBob episode, but I thought
Gotta
that
love
applied
SpongeBob. Gotta love the SpongeBob
the
reference.
conversation.
There's always a SpongeBob reference. You know, Quasimodo predicted this. He predicted
Yeah,
all.
SpongeBob never had the makings of a varsity athlete. SpongeBob never had the makings of a fried cook. Oh my god.
Steph Curry couldn't shoot threes, you know?
Super Bowl 60 deserves a sportsbook built for the moment. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60, puts you right in the center of the biggest game of the year. Anything can happen during the Super Bowl, and DraftKings has your back with early exit. If your player goes down in the first half, you still get paid in cash when your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. While other sportsbook don't offer injury protection, DraftKings covers the entire first half, even the second quarter. And early exit works on live bets too. Pre-game or in-game, DraftKings has you covered. New to DraftKings, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-7897-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All right. I'm surprised... What?
Can we pause it real quick? Because we might need to add this story to it. Did you just see this Gavin McKenna shit?
Nope.
He's under he's facing 4 charges, including a felony aggravated assault, and can face up to 20 years in jail if he's convicted.
What the fuck? No.
Yeah, that's why I've been making this face for the last 2 minutes. I
was like looking at you, and I'm like, what? I'm like, are you?
Because I love the SpongeBob reference, but this is. This is crazy. What the fuck?
I kind of just want to keep this in our raw reactions because I had no idea. Like,
Yeah, no, we can keep it in. That's fine. I
yeah,
just didn't know if you want like because it's alleged right now, so I don't want to like
okay,
put too much smoke on it. But that's very serious charges put or alleged charges put towards potential first overall pick in this year's draft. And I think the last time anything like this has happened was like in any sport is like Laramie Tunsil with the gas mask, but that was just him smoking weed. This is a completely different set of
yeah, that's a whole
circumstances.
other level.
Story that should summarize like 2014 in a nutshell, 2015, 2016. But this is a lot more serious allegations, and it sounds like it was some altercation 2 weeks ago, or no, it was this weekend after the Stadium Series game or the outdoor game.
That's what I
So
was gonna ask. Yeah,
speaking of outdoor games, so I
yeah.
guess it does
Oh my
relate.
god.
But yeah, I'm not really gonna say anything. You got to see the full story come out on that. But those are very serious allegations. And that's a felony charge. Like you will go to jail for something like that. It's funny.
Yeah,
We watch one of the most violent sports on earth, but at the end of the day, they like unless you're on the ice, you're assaulting someone doing anything in hockey. Unless you're on the ice playing a game, that's assault. So I don't know, man. I hope I'd like to hear the whole full story. I don't want to hear that that's true, but if it is, that's pretty damning for this draft class and for a young player who, as of a year ago, you probably would have thought was the next big thing. So this is rough. This is rough. And that's a guy who's making $700 million NIL. Like, just goes to show you gotta. I don't know. You gotta be smart when you're in a position like that. Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if your parents taught you like this, but I know mine did, especially because you see fights go around all the time. You see people get physical, and it's just like I was taught at a young age. There's no winner in a fight. Both sides lose. And at
I
the end
was
of the day,
told
you don't want
only
to.
self-defense get in a
Yeah.
fight.
Well,
Like if
yeah,
your life
obviously,
depended
but
on
like,
it.
there's
Yeah.
no reason to go out looking for it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
No, never seek a fight.
especially
Absolutely.
when you're making generational wealth as a college kid, and you're about to make generational wealth in the NHL for probably the next 15 years if you're having the career that people think you will. Don't put yourself in situations like this. You just don't. And like, you just don't. You just don't. And I know like there's gonna be hockey gonna come out and be like, well, they didn't hear the shit we did 30 years ago. It's like, yeah, well, it's not 30 years ago, man. There's a camera everywhere now. And this is an era where people are being held accountable for their actions, unfortunately. So if this happened, that really is unfortunate for him. But you're not invincible. You're not untouchable. Like I think a lot of athletes learn that through the course of their life. I like to think, I just watched the documentary about the '85 Bears. They beat San Francisco that year, and that was like the get the monkey off Ditka's back, and he got arrested for a DUI the next day because he thought the cop wasn't going to arrest him. Like these guys think they're untouchable sometimes, and you're just not. So I'm hope like I don't want to bring too much attention to this because it is just like this. This was 20 minutes ago, but that's interesting to say the least. That is a little interesting.
Yeah, I do want to read.
Hope whoever, hope whatever happens okay. But those are pretty damning accusations or alleged or yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I'll
like
read
one
the
count of
tweet.
aggravated. Yeah.
It's from at Evan RG Smith, and just clicking on his profile, Penn State, which is obviously where Gavin McKenna plays. The Daily Collegian Wrestling hockey writer and editor. He puts this breaking: Gavin McKenna charged with felony assault. Over the last few days, we looked into reports that Gavin McKenna broke the jaw of a kid who was chirping him after he was asked to leave the Doggies pub Saturday night. He has now been charged with aggravated assault and 3 other charges. So, yeah, we won't really go too much further unless there's some kind of resolution with it, but obviously just to read it to give some context.
Yes, thank you for reading it. Yeah, so that's news. But anyways, let's get on to a little more topic with the topic. So, you be thinking mock trades or Olympics? What do we want to talk about?
I don't know, whatever you want to do. I'm good with either. What are you feeling?
I'm feeling mock
I don't
trades.
know. What do you want to do today? Another
I'm thinking mock trades though. So
all right.
Let's get
End
into
off
it.
with the Olympics. Yeah.
I did manage to think of one more in the meantime because we brought up a
nice.
player, and
Okay,
I was like, this
many do
might
you
make
have?
sense. I have four. So
Okay, I have 6, so that makes 10. There you go.
I love when we do math. This is so great.
Yeah. I
But you can
mean,
lead
I
us
went
off,
to,
man.
yeah,
Oh,
I went
sorry.
through
What were you
13
saying?
years of school. I was just gonna say I went through 13 years of school. I hope that math stuck with me.
Hope I learned something.
I will start off with a trade that involves the Blackhawks. Like, just as an aside, like I said earlier, I think they are only gonna sell off and just get draft picks. Like they'll trade. I think this is going to happen. I think they'll trade Murphy. I think they're going to do good by him, kind of like Ron Hainsey. Yeah, if you want to count the 2020 bubble playoff games, sure, but he hasn't got an actual taste of playoff hockey as it is now. I think the Hawks should do right by him and move him. I don't know. Maybe Davidson talks to him and he wants to stay in Chicago. He's been good, is the thing. I wouldn't mind keeping him around if he wants to stay, but I'm just thinking, man, this guy, like you said earlier, he's been with the Hawks longer than Marian Hossa was. It's been almost a decade of him, and it's just been, at best, it's been mediocrity, and he's been playing for almost over a decade now. I would like him to go to a contending team and just get a chance, and maybe he has his Ron Hainsey moment, first like actual playoff run, and he gets a cup and a ring out of it. And maybe the scenario if he goes to a team and then comes back to Chicago free agency, which never happens, maybe that happens. But anyways, I think they trade Jason Dickinson. I don't think there's much to that. And Ilya Mikheyev is an interesting one because I would like them to keep him around. But again, if they get a good offer for him, then trade him. Or maybe it just becomes where the price point is too high and you don't want to be like all these bottom 6 guys making $4 or $5 million. As much as the cap space doesn't matter, I don't think you should be paying a bunch of bottom 6 guys that much money. Like you got to start getting some good players and spending your money wiser. Anyways, enough ranting there. Besides those 3 players, I don't think they're gonna make trades. But if there was a trade to be made outside of those 3 players, here's what I think would happen. Kyle Davidson has made a move with this trade before, and you could argue besides Seth Jones, it's probably the biggest trade he has made, and that's Brandon Hagel to Tampa Bay. We talked about him earlier. Darren Radish is a UFA at the end of the season, and I'm doubtful that the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be able to resign him. You might know where I'm going with this, but I just think the Tampa Bay Lightning would love Louis Crevier, and they would have him for another year at $900,000. And then in return, every GM has their guys. They have their team. With Kyle Dubas, it's the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. And with Kyle Davidson, it's the Brantford Bulldogs. Granted, this player is not on the Brantford Bulldogs, but he plays with another draft pick of Kyle Davidson, Jack Pridham. Sam O'Reilly is now with the Kitchener Rangers. That'll be the return for him. So the trade is one for one. Maybe the Lightning throw in a draft pick or whatever, but just with everything I've heard about Sam O'Reilly, he fits the Kyle Davidson MO. So Tampa Bay is trying to go all in, and man, they've been as good as they have been in years to do that, to win the Atlantic Division and go on another deep playoff run. They've done a very good job of retooling. I think them adding in Louis Crevier helps them for this year and next year, and who knows, maybe they sign him to like a 8-year, $4 or $5 million per year contract, like it seems like they do with everyone. So I think that is a fair 1-for-1 trade. And Blackhawks, you just add another young forward into the lineup who can maybe play as soon as next year and play that style that Kyle Davidson, this organization, wants.
That'd be a crazy trade. I just don't know. I think the Hawks would have to add another like player because I think Sam O'Reilly's a pretty big piece. Like that's the guy they traded Isaac Howard for as their one prospect. But at the same time, $900K, he's clearly at least the bottom pairing defenseman. Like
I think that's what I think. Like a year of a guy who makes $900K, a year and a bit of a guy who makes $900K who is right-handed and can potentially play on your second pairing. I think that is also valuable. So I don't know. Maybe the Hawks got to add in picks. Well, I'm just doing it as a 1-for-1, but it wouldn't honestly, like, if we're going to see a trade out of nowhere with the Hawks, that's what I would that's how I would envision it. Honestly, I could see Florida doing the same thing too. One of the Florida teams.
Yeah, shit. The Panthers might make a little more sense there because they're so cap strapped. But it'd
Maybe
be
like
interesting
Mackie
to sell high on Krejci.
Like we
was on
can
my
workshop
list.
this.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That'd be an interesting trade, I think, just to sell high on Crevier because like he's a 6'8" right-handed shot. Those don't grow on trees. And
Yeah.
if at worst he's a Logan Stanley, like that guy's been around the league
Mhm.
for well, he got drafted in 2016, so and he'll be a free
He's
agent
a
this
Hall of
year, and he's
Fame
probably going to
talent.
get 4+ mil just because he's big. So
Yeah.
to have a player like that at that cap hit, and like the Lightning have done this before. They did it with Gaudreau. They did it with Coleman. So um, I think that'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting. I'm just curious to see what the return would be because I don't know what Crevier's value is.
Yeah, or maybe I don't know. Like we could workshop it. Like maybe they throw Connor Geeky in there. I don't know who they think more highly of, but I'm just viewing it from Julian Breezeball and of things, who does not care about draft picks or prospects. If Louis Crevier can help the Lightning, which I very much think he can, I don't think he cares that much about Sam O'Reilly. It would move on from him to help make the Lightning better.
Yeah, and I think that's something that they really got to look. The Lightning can't waste this opportunity. I don't think you're going to get many clear shots like this where they're set up very well.
So
But maybe they
open.
thought that in 2019 too. So like, this is a team that's got some hindsight, but they know when to go for it. They did it with Bjorkstrand. Like they're going to do it again. They did it with Hagel, and look at how that worked. They did it with McDonough twice.
Yeah.
This is what they do. This is just what they do.
Do you want to go next, or do you want to go
Yeah.
like I go two, you go on? I'll let you go then.
So I guess I want to rank these by like player, I guess. So I'll do the one that I most recently, like the one I was thinking of mid show, because we were talking about Braden Schneider. And it's a guy that can actually get you assets, and his timeline's not going to match the Rangers timeline, but he does match the Sharks timeline. And they desperately need some defensemen long term there. So I'm thinking like
Especially young
right.
defensemen. Yeah, like look at their
Mm-hmm.
blue line. It's just all old guys that have 1 year left. I think Orlov's the only guy who's signed beyond next year that isn't Dickinson.
Mm-hmm. So like I have Braden Schneider going to San Jose, and then I got Nick Leddy going
Mm-hmm.
the other way just for the money and to make all that
Mm-hmm.
work. But then I have Matthias Havley going the other way, who's one of San Jose's. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a second or third round pick, but he's been killing it in Sweden. And I got to imagine the defenseman goes the other way. Clearly, the Sharks have forward prospects and like they have Cagnoni and whatnot, but I don't know how they rank their guys. And
Yeah.
maybe it's a guy like Haltonen. I don't know. Like they have really good pieces to trade in terms of prospects, but and then it's a conditional second, with the second being that if they make the conference final or they win 2 playoff rounds, it'll be a 2027 first, top 10 protected. But very complicated condition because I don't think they can't really trade seconds like that right now. But I think if it's a conditional 2028, that can become a 2027 first if they're winning in the playoffs. That could be beneficial. But maybe it's more just because he's a right-handed shot. But I also don't think the Sharks are in a position to give up first-round picks. So that's where this gets interesting. But I think there's a way where that could find a match with those two teams. I mean, they're already talking with Panarin, so they kind of know where each other stand at right as of this point. And I think Braden Schneider could really help that back end. I think he's in the average eye. I think he's a little overrated, but that's top 4 defenseman still, and they don't grow on. Well, they do grow on trees, but at that age they don't. So, and you can lock him up long term because I think he's going to be an RFA. So that was my first one. And I think Havley would be solid puck move or solid smooth skating defenseman in New York, and he's 20, so they got a lot of time with him too if they were to do that. So you get a little younger, you get some more picks, maybe you get a first from San Jose if they make a run here. Maybe you make the condition where they win one round just to make it a little better for you, but I don't know. That was my first one.
Yeah, I had a trade similar to that. So I'll just go to that next. I had the Sharks acquiring Mackenzie Weegar from the Flames, and
Mm.
like you're probably getting someone who's better now, but also older. So I guess it depends on what you want to do. Um, and then I have the Flames getting Quentin Musty, Luca Cagnoni, and then the 2026 first from Edmonton. I don't think they're going to trade their first, but I think it's a pretty good bet
Mm-hmm.
that Oilers pick is probably going to be in the late 20s, if not early 30s. And yeah, maybe the hardest part of doing these trades is figuring out where the prospects stand and everything, because the Sharks are just flushed full with great forward prospects. I was looking at their AHL team, like Igor Chernishaw, Phil Bystedt, who was the first round pick for them, I think is point per game. And like I feel you could just throw any of those names in there, and I think that would work for Calgary. I just put Quentin Musty because former first round pick, big guy. I think the Flames would love that. Luca Cagnani. Um, I think their defense is a little weak, so maybe that does hurt them. Maybe you could switch him for a Havlet. I don't know, but yeah, Mackenzie Weegar is very underrated, and for that contract, I think is definitely worth paying that price. And yeah, if the Sharks are serious about going all in, then I think this is a trade they can make. But yeah, kind of similar thinking. Like Uyghur is better, but he is older. But Schneider maybe not as good, but also there's younger, and you would have more control over him. I don't know, but yeah, same line of thinking. Sharks need to get at least a top 4 level defenseman. I think with Uyghur, that's probably their best. Not even probably that would be their best defenseman.
Oh, definitely. And he'd be their safety blanket defensively, which I think a team with that much offensive forward talent, you probably need that. And he's got a pretty decent offensive upside for the amount of, for being a defensive
He had 20
defenseman.
goals a couple of years ago. Yeah.
And I mean, for Uyghur's case, you'd probably be in a situation where you're going to start winning some hockey games again, and they definitely will play you. Like, he'll just be a minute eater for that team. So,
Oh yeah. He'll
I
be
know
the
he's a big
guy
part of
there.
like, oh, 100 on the back end, definitely. You put him with Dickinson and let Dickinson develop with that, stay at home defenseman that has a little upside. Like, that's perfect for San Jose. I love that, honestly. I'd very much be interested to see, to have that defensive stability on a team that definitely lacks it after watching them Monday.
Oh my
Would be
god,
helpful.
yeah. I didn't bring that up, but yeah, we think sometimes the Blackhawks have bad structures. Oh, that Renzel goal was
He's wide open.
Yeah.
Crazy. So my next trade, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but we're gonna do a little US Team USA Nepo trade type shit.
Hell
So
yeah, let's
Vincent Trocheck's gonna go
go.
to the Wild.
Uh-huh.
I just feel like that's only a matter of time. He definitely waved to go there. They really do need a second line center. And he'd be perfect behind Eriksson Ek. And he's locked up. He's got term. He's still producing at a pretty decent clip. For the return, I don't think it's going to be much again because it's a no move thing. But because of the term, I had Hinostroza going back just because they need a body. You need a body to ice for
Yeah.
the rest of the season. But I had Riley Haight as the big piece in this trade. The Wild do have some pretty good center prospects. I don't know which one they prefer more, but Riley Haight has had a couple of pretty good seasons in junior, and that give you the prospect power to probably not use a first. And then I had a 2027, or is it 2027? I don't know. Whatever. It's either next year or the year after that second, whichever one they have still. But like I said, Minnesota's going all in. Like, you got to get a center if you're going to do
They
this. Like,
have
you got
to.
Quinn Hughes. He's
Yeah.
been great. But you got to capitalize on that. And it's not going to get any easier when you get to the playoffs and you got to go through Dallas and Colorado. So best way to gear up for that is to get, a guy, at least by, the talking heads, is a defensive center. So
And a
I think
glue
it'd be
guy, can't forget that.
yeah, glue guy. Clearly their GM thinks so. So I just, and they're going to be able to talk shop for a month in Milan. I just think that's only a matter of time before that happens. At least for Trocheck, because I think Miller doesn't help Minnesota with the cap hit, but I think Trocheck makes like 6. So, like, that's a little more doable.
I know this is 5.625 because I have a Vincent Trocheck trade, but not to Minnesota. I have the Wild. I have, just to tease that, I have the Wild getting another center. Again, I wanted to get creative with these trades as possibly as I could. So in this trade, the Minnesota Wild I don't think they have that much cap space to operate with, and David Yurchek has not worked out for the Minnesota Wild. Look at his stats. I think he has something like 0 points in 25 games with the Wild. But I still think there is a team out there that would take on a David Yurchek. And it's hard to get cheap centers, especially cap wise. I have the Minnesota Wild acquiring from the Seattle Kraken Shane Wright. I also have them getting Ty Cartier just as a bottom 6 depth present because I think Bill Guerin would love that. And then going to the Kraken, I have David Yurchek and Danila Yurov going the other way. So yeah, David Yurchek, I was right, 25 games, 0 points. Last year in the AHL with Minnesota, only 7 assists in 27 games. And then this year in the AHL, he only has 1 goal in 15 games, 5 points. So it's been real tough for David Yurchek, but I think just looking at Seattle's back end, I think they would take the chance on that. And same with Danila Yuroff. Like Yuroff might be as good as Shane Wright, but also Shane Wright had, I think, 45 points last year. Bill Guerin, you're just taking a chance on Shane Wright potentially. I don't know if he's got 1C upside, but maybe he could be a 2C or just like help boost your center depth and have him for cheap because I think he has another year after this on his ELC.
Yeah, makes sense.
And there's not a lot of money being moved. Shane Wright only has 887K. Ty Cartier is 1.25 mil, and then David Yurchek 918K, and then Danila Yuroff 950K. So like not a lot of
Right
money. And I
extension
kind of
would
did
definitely
account.
be interesting.
And I did account for the money in all these trades. Like the last one I did, O'Reilly and Crevier, that's basically nothing. And then this trade, it's only like maybe 2 million going each way. So yeah. I don't know if like because I have a Vincent Trocheck trade, but it's not to the Wild. So do you want me to go to that one now?
Yeah.
So the Edmonton Oilers really need to take a swing. Every year I include the Oilers in it because I just want them to take a big swing. You have to when you have Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, especially now when it is just a ticking time bomb in Edmonton and the West is so completely open. They're going to get Vincent Trocheck from the New York Rangers. They're going to get the Rangers to retain $1.5 million on him. So you got your 3C for the next however many years. I think he's a UFA in 2029. So, like, you got him for 3 years after this year. And you can do what, like, Chris Knobloch can do whatever he wants with his lines. He can put Draisaitl and McDavid together, and then you can have Nuge on one line and then Vincent Trocheck. Like, that just gives them so much depth. And then the Rangers are going to get Andrew Mangiapane just to make the money work out. I know the Oilers have wanted to move him. And then they're also going to get Ike Howard, Boiki, and a 2027 first. Like, the Rangers are going to retain on it, but they're going to get the package that they want for Vincent Trocheck. And the Oilers get, I wouldn't say a superstar, but a very good piece that could help them win a Stanley Cup. And then the Rangers, like Ike Howard is not on the Oilers roster, and I don't know if he's going to get any time. Same with Boeki. Just ship all those. Like, you're not affecting your current roster. Mangiapane is not even playing for them. And then Oilers get a good piece, and then the Rangers get some young pieces back. And I think they would probably just flip Mangiapane.
Yeah, I'd love that trade for the Rangers personally, and really the Oilers. Like, I just think to have
It's a
that
good
trump
trade
card in your
for both
bottom
sides, I
six.
think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Rangers get the haul that they're looking for, and Howard's going to get the ice time he's looking for.
Yeah.
And Bo Aki looks like a player, so I think that'd be pretty fair on both sides. I just don't know what Trocheck's like. That's why my trade was a little different than yours, just because I just don't know what Trocheck's value is, especially with the no move. Like, that's where it gets tricky. But if both sides match that, like, and Edmonton would have to give up a first for retention. Like, that's different. Like, mine was without retention. Yours is like
exactly.
getting him at $4 million. Like, yeah, you're giving up a first for the next what,
And
3 years? Like,
yeah, 4 including this, 3 after this. Yeah,
keep people locked up longer than McDavid, but yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, that's a creative trade. Okay, so I have 2 fun trades. I'm gonna start with this one. There's a reason I was so hellbent on Nashville blowing it up. I just think you have a guy that doesn't have a no move. He's got 54 points in 57 games. He can literally be the number 2 center on any team you trade him for outside of like Pittsburgh. And he would immediately make a team that's maybe at the top or trending towards the top, put him over the top. And you look at Detroit, they're still hanging in there in the Atlantic. You know, they're playing very well. Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat having a career year. Mo Seider's a Norris finalist, in my opinion. 2C still a hole, though. 2C still a hole. Like, I love Marco Casper, but he hasn't had the most offensively inclined season. You know, Andrew Kopp and these guys aren't exactly needle movers anymore. But I do think they have the assets to go get him. And I think, you know, strictly off a rental basis, I think Nashville wants a prospect. So I think Nate Danielson's the main piece going back here with 2 seconds. I don't think it's going to cost a first. I really don't. Especially if you're getting a prospect like Danielson, because Danielson is looked at very highly by Detroit, but Detroit hasn't had a kick at the can like this in well over a decade, and I wouldn't feel too confident with my bottom three centers going into the playoffs. Like getting Ryan O'Reilly makes your four centers Larkin, O'Reilly, Kopp, Comfort, or you move Comfort to the wing, whatever you want to do. That makes you extremely deep at center. It makes a team look completely different overnight. Like your second line is potentially DeBrincat, O'Reilly, Kane. Like that's a good spot to be in for the playoffs, man. That's a really good spot to be in, and he's having a great year. And he brings some defensive prowess. He brings some, obviously you have Patrick Kane there, who's won 3 cups, but this is a guy who's won a Conn Smythe. He's won a cup. He's been on a team that no one really believed in to a sense, because I don't think the average fan believes Detroit's getting out of the first round or the second round. You gotta capitalize on this high right now, and I think getting a guy like Ryan O'Reilly just makes this team look so much more dangerous overnight. Like if I look at that, and then you get Buffalo round 1, or you get Tampa round 1, or you get Montreal, like you're gonna be able to go blow for blow with that team. You might win more than you lose in that series, and might end up winning that series just because of a guy like that. Like look at what he did for Toronto when Toronto had the luxury of putting him at a 3-seat position. And Detroit's not the same way set up, but they have enough offensive power to where if they got something like this in there, that just puts them right over the top. So, like, I kind of want this to happen pretty bad. I maybe the return that I brought isn't high enough, but I just think Nate Danielson's like he's looked at as like a stud 2-way center prospect, and he's been looked at that since the night he was drafted. And maybe it's Casper, I don't know, but I think it's worth trading one of those two guys if you can get Ryan O'Reilly, and hell, who knows? Maybe he extends. Like, and then you got him for the next couple years with this older core while the younger players are easing in. I think it just opens up so much for Detroit if they did it. And I think Detroit needs to be aggressive at the deadline, because this is the time. Like every other team is either limping in your division or can't get their footing right. Take advantage of it. Besides Tampa, obviously. Tampa's just Tampa, but
I think Tampa's on another level, but besides that, I think the Atlantic is so wide open, especially if you're going to finish in a divisional spot and probably play the Sabres, maybe the Habs, maybe the Bruins. But yeah, I'm with you because I'm with you that the Red Wings need to add another center. I think 2024, I wanted them to trade Edvinsson for Schmaltz, which probably good that they didn't.
But
they
wouldn't make
a trade like
nothing
that.
against Schmaltz, he's been great, but
I didn't think Edvinsson was going to be as good as he is good as now. And last year I said they should trade for Pettersson. So yeah, like they have Steve Yzerman has the pieces. I would just like him to do something.
Definitely. And like all your guys are having career years. Like reward them for being in the basement. Like reward a guy like Dylan Larkin who has stuck it through with you the whole time this team has sucked. Like reward a guy like him.
Yeah.
Reward Raymond and Sider. They've been dealing with bullshit since they got in the league. Like you gotta reward your players, I think.
Gibson's worked out. Kane is still producing at his age. There's a lot.
Talbot worked out too. Like both their goalies have been very solid this year. And McClellan, man, who would have thought Todd McClellan was the answer for that team after all the coaches that they've tried? Crazy. Like the most retread coach in the league works in Detroit. Who would have thought? And I think it's just because of all the veterans, maybe, but crazy, man. Crazy. They're a great story. It just sucks that it's happening to a rival.
Yeah. Bring up Elias Pettersson. These two next trades, I saved the biggest 2 trades for last. Do you have any more trades, or is that it?
I got one more trade.
Okay, you go then.
Okay. So my last one, St. Louis is already starting to sell off. They have some big ass pieces that they want to really sell. And I just, this team is going to have to pick a direction, and you'd like to keep Robert Thomas or Jordan Kyrou, but if you want to kickstart a rebuild, Robert Thomas is going to get you the haul you need for that. And I think a team desperate enough like Washington would give you what you need for that. So I got Robert Thomas going to Washington for a 2026 first, 2027 second, Andrew Cristall, Hendrix Lapierre, and then That was originally where I was gonna leave it off, but now I'm thinking about it. I think I'm throwing in Cole Hudson too. Like you get 3 legit prospects. Well, Hendricks Lapierre is kind of like a tweener, but 2 legit prospects, a first and a second, and that first is, let's be honest, like I'm gonna go on a limb and say Washington like only top 2 protects this pick because they're probably gonna protect it in the case they get number 1, but you're getting a pick in the teens most likely for Thomas, and then you're gonna have your top 5 pick. You could recoup that team overnight asset wise pretty quickly, and they got some young prospects in their system. Just for every young prospect, they go extend Logan Mailloux 3 years. So, once Doug Armstrong picks that lane, he'll be good. But if they sell off, if the Blues fire sale like they did a couple years ago or like a decade ago, you could sell Shen, you could sell Thomas, you could sell Kyrou, and you could sell Bushnevich, and maybe Pareko, and those 5 assets. And yes, they have no moves, and yes, they make a lot of money. That can completely change your prospect pool overnight. And yeah, maybe you want to keep Thomas. Maybe you want to keep Kyrou. Maybe you only trade one or the other. Maybe Kyrou's the guy you trade because that seemed to be the case. But I don't know, man. Robert Thomas really is. It doesn't seem like he's having the best year there right now. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of gelling with Montgomery. And you can't let your elite asset depreciate like that. I think you got to find a way to flip that and make it something towards your team in the right direction. And for Washington, that just reloads them. Like, holy shit, you got Thomas and Strome as your 2 centers going forward. Welcome back, Backstrom and Kuznetsov. Close enough. Holy shit. It'd make Washington look completely different. Like, your new core is Strome, Thomas, Chikrin. That's our Protus, Leonard. Like, that's a good little core they're making. You still got Wilson. Obi's on the back burner. I think it could work. But it's not going to be cheap because Robert Thomas, I think, has like 4 years left on this deal. So, you're going to have to pony up for that. But they have the prospects to do it. They have the prospects to do it. And the way I mapped out the trade, they're not giving up roster players because I don't think giving up roster players benefits the Caps in this situation. You have to give up futures for this. You have to put all your eggs into the Obi basket.
Yeah, Robert Thomas on maybe one of the best contracts in the NHL, but not having a great year. Yeah, you could keep him, but also you could just get an insane package. We had the same idea. These 2 trades last trades I have are the biggest one. So I have Robert Thomas being traded also, but not to the Capitals, but to a team who I talked about earlier who sold at last year's deadline and have done a great job of retooling their team. And with the wide open Atlantic, I have the Bruins acquiring Robert Thomas and Oscar Sundqvist. The Blues will get Mason Lohrei, Casey Middlestat, Matthew Patra, Dean Letourneau, who's unsigned in college, and quite possibly the biggest piece of this trade, they're going to get that 2026 first from Toronto, and they're going to get a 2027 first from Florida. So, yeah, if I'm the Boston Bruins, I am pushing the chips all in to you talk about the Capitals, you go from Backstrom and Kuznetsov to Thomas and Strome. The Bruins are going to go from Bergeron and Krejci to Robert Thomas and James Higgins in pretty short order, and you still got guys on your team like Morgan Geekie. Fraser Minton has been great for him. Like I said earlier, same with Marat Kuznetsov. It's just how they've retooled their team, however you want to put it, in the last year has been incredible. It's a testament to their pro scouting. And I look at the return for St. Louis, the Bruins were willing to trade Mason Lohrei for Rasmus Anderson. And now, again, it's not a defenseman, or you're not trading for a defenseman back, but I trade Lohrei and Middlestat to make the money work. Matthew Patra, a little bit of a down year, but that's still, I think, a piece the Blues could use. Dean Letourneau, I think, could fit the Blues perfectly just because he's such a big guy and now he's having such a great year in college after he did so much last year. But yeah, to me, that big chip is the Toronto first, because that could potentially be a top 10 pick there. And then the 2027 first from Florida. Who knows what Florida is going to be next year? Maybe they bounce back. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just decline and keep getting older. And that's another top 15 pick with what maybe the Blackhawks are getting this year. So Yeah, I think just listening to yours, you definitely have like the better prospects. I think this is maybe a bit more Magic Beans, but you're also getting more ready talent. Like I think if they got Casey Middlestat, they probably flip him. Their defense desperately needs like an injection of youth because you just look at that defense. I feel everyone is older than 30 years old unless you're Logan Mayu. But yeah, those first round picks are absolute Magic Beans, but also I think they could get a top 10 pick out of it, which is what they want. I think they said they wanted something equivalent of 3 like top 15 picks prospects or whatever. But I think this is a good enough package to get it done. I mean, if you're the Bruins, you absolutely do it. And Blues, that's a pretty big haul back, I think. And Oscar Sundqvist just seems like a perfect Bruin. Oh, your mic's muted.
Be ironic if those teams made that trade up for 2019, but it's funny you were mentioning the trade and like you're listing off everything. I'm like, I don't think this is enough, and then you'd like, oh, number
No.
6 pick from Toronto. I'm like, that might do it. That might do it actually. Then the Blues have 2 top 10 picks, and things get a lot more interesting for that team. But man, like you look at what the Bruins would be if Thomas is there. Like I don't know who moves. Probably Geeky moves to the wing, but like you still have Lindholm in there too.
Oh,
Like they're just going to
no.
be
Yeah.
so deep at center, and Minton
Yeah.
can play center or wing. Like
Same with Murat.
it's gonna be a problem.
And then maybe
and
I don't know
credit to
if
them,
Hedman's
they've.
a signing, but
I
that's
don't
another
think
guy.
so. I think he might wait another year, but who knows? All these players sign a year too soon now, so we'll see what happens. But Boston, like you got to go all in.
And the thing is, like they have these first round picks because they got it for Brandon Carlo, and then you got the Brad Marchand trade, which turned to a first because the Panthers won the Cup last year. So even trading those 2 first round picks, you still have your own. So this like you lose Laura, you make that trade for Thomas, you could still go out and trade a first and get a high end defensive. Like they would still have pieces. Like, but yeah, the more and more I think about it, if I'm the Blues, I would probably be asking for Fraser Minton, and I would probably still do that trade because the Bruins still have much more depth. So maybe you switch like a Potra for a Minton, and maybe that's what makes the trade go through. But yeah, I think the Bruins should do that, a trade like that. My last trade, probably the biggest trade, definitely in terms of money. So I think maybe more so than any team in the NHL, this team, they have taken swings in the past, but it has not worked out, whether that is Jake Gensel in 2024, didn't re-sign. They traded for Mikko Rantanen early in 2025 and then traded him because they didn't think they were going to be able to re-sign him either. But this time, they're going to get a player that is going to be locked in at $11.6 million from the Vancouver Canucks. I'm pretty sure it was rumored a couple of years ago that the Hurricanes were interested in Elias Pettersson. Hurricanes need to make a move like this. They need to get over that hump in the playoffs, and the best way to do that is giving the Hurricanes a good 1-2 punch at center with Pettersson and Aho. Going the other way, the Canucks, just to make the money work, Jesperi Kotkaniemi is going the other way, but then you get Logan. Yeah, you get Logan Stankoven, who this year is making only $814K, but then he switches to $6 million. I'm looking at his production this year, and it's not that great. And I think that the Hurricanes have a lot of similar players like that, whether that's Jackson Blake or they have Bradley Nadeau in the system as well. The Canucks will also get Dominic Fensori, who's put up, I think, decent production at the AHL level, so he'll definitely get a chance in Vancouver. And then you get a 2026 first-round pick from the Carolinas end of things, and then they'll trade their 2028 first Dallas for Elias Pettersson.
They've already been in the hunt for Pettersson before. Like we know there's interest there.
Yeah.
And like you said, like they need another running mate, but yeah, I love it from Vancouver's perspective. Like that's the trade you want to get like a plethora of assets and like to get a guy like Stankoven who will be locked up for 8 years then at that hit. And then like I think that's great for them. But at the same time, because I was having a conversation, like maybe it's just like, you know, the recency bias in me, but like I've been having conversation with friends about Pettersson, and it's just like, if you're a GM, like, do you really want to give up all that much right now? Like he's on pace for like maybe 50 points this year. He's making 11 and a half for the next 7 years. Like, that's a big gamble. That's a big gamble. Maybe for Carolina, it's good because he's locked up and he's got that no
Yeah.
move. So, like, you are in control unless he wants out. But, like, my perspective, unless it's a team like a Chicago where they have the cap space to kind of make a fuck up like that, like, that's a big risk a lot of these contending teams are going to have to take. So I don't know. I just don't know how that trade is going to end up shaking out because, like, obviously, like, players like that get moved. Jonathan Huberdeau and Matthew Tkachuk got moved. Like, this happens, but like Jonathan Huberdeau wasn't coming off his 45-point season when he got traded. He was coming off the 117-point season. Like, and it's not like this is a one-off thing for Pettersson. Like, this has actually been him the last 2 or 3 years, I feel like. So, and maybe if you trust your guys, bet on it. Like, I bet on it. Like, that doesn't, like, I'm an idiot. I'll bet on anything. Like, shit, I'll take the guy who
Bet
had
on
90
nothing.
points a couple times. He had 100 points once. Like, yeah, I'd love to take that risk. And I think Carolina would too. They haven't had a player sniff that ever. So I love it for, actually, now that I'm coming to think of it, I do love it for both sides. I just think for GM that just fucking lost Rantanen after they traded for him with that whole fiasco, they might be a little gun shy. Maybe they're not though, because they ran on Panarin, but like, I'd hope Tulski figured out though. Like, maybe this is perfect for Tulski because then Tulski doesn't even have to talk. Like I said, he doesn't have to talk about the extension. He's already signed, so like you don't have this fear of, oh, we're gonna trade for this guy and he's gonna leave. So maybe it's worth it for that. But like, I don't know. Pettersson's just gonna be. I'm gonna be very interested to see which team takes the jump at him because unless it's like a Chicago or a Columbus or a San Jose or one of these teams with a lot of cap, some shit's gonna have to get moved around. Like the trade you proposed, there's technically 10 mil being moved in salary. Like, it'll be interesting for sure. Because I think Pettersson's still worth the gamble. He's what, 26? But
27. He'll be 28 later this year, but like he's still in his prime. And I honestly think all he needs is a change of scenery. And normally I don't like at least not now like anymore. Like send you stuff of this player could be a match with the Hawks. But when I read that article on Daily Faceoff saying that the Pettersson might, like a couple of years ago, before he signed his extension in Vancouver, that Pettersson might be interested in the Hawks, that really stick out to me. I'm like, well, maybe that could be something that works. And I think any team that's kind of at the bottom of the barrel and has a lot of cap space should make that work. Like the Blackhawks, I think, could make that work. Like you said, the Sharks, the Blue Jackets should also be on that. But looking at the Hurricanes, they're one of the very few contending teams that just have a complete clean like cap ledger. They don't have any buyouts or retentions or anything, so they can afford to take Elias Pettersson on. And like from Vancouver's end of things, I would want what they got for Quinn Hughes. I would put that out as a starter. And to me, it's almost like you're selling, like, because yeah, Pettersson's on a down year, but so is Stankoven. Like, I think he only has 25 points in 55 games, so it's not like things have been going too well with him. I think Kotkaniemi is just in there to make the salary work, and then you get the magic beans with the first round pick. So like I think it's very reasonable for both sides, maybe more so for Carolina, but Vancouver, you're going to be able to clear off that $11.6 million, and you get two useful players. Like Kotkaniemi could still be something very good. Like he could figure it out in Vancouver. Not that I'm confident in him, but he's still not young. It's not like he's in his 30s.
and Filipino can fight for 3C.
Exactly. But I mean, on the Canucks, he might be the 2C behind Rossi.
Shit, you're right. He definitely is. The reason I was laughing earlier is because like I was just like, he's such a Ranger. They're finally gonna get Pettersson.
Put him with Miller again. That's crazy.
We're gonna make you guys figure it out, all right?
Yeah.
But
jeez.
No, low key, another team. Maybe that's an off-season thing, but like Philly, like in Mishkov's the main pivotal training.
But I think the big thing there, you bring up the Rangers of Miller. I don't
oh my
think
God,
Pettersson would want to be a talking.
My life is in prison. Oh my God. Like the two most like ideal spots, there's a cancer involved. It's just not gonna let it happen. This is such a dumb league. Oh my God. It's like Philly would work. Oh wait, he hates the fucking coach. Oh my God, man. Oh my God. Now I need it. Now I need it to happen. They all need to reunite in New York. That was the problem. Vancouver was the problem. They weren't the problem.
Yeah, it'll all figure itself out in the Big Apple. But yeah, with Pedersen, I do think that's probably something that happens towards the draft. And yeah, like if kind of from we're just looking at it from the Blackhawks end of things, like I'd trade Frundell for Pedersen. They'd probably want one of the defensemen. I would do that, and then like maybe their first round pick. Like they can get it done, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But it was interesting to me that Pedersen would be interested in Chicago, and I wonder if it's still the same because like you think of Vancouver coming this year, they might have been able to contend for a playoff spot, but now they're worse than the Hawks. So maybe the Hawks, like as a team on the way up, maybe that's something he's interested in. I don't know, but I figured we would do this before the Olympic break, just because give some GMs some ideas. They can watch this and get some ideas from it. So you're welcome, NHL general managers.
Give you a good thinking piece on the flight to Milan.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we do have to go a little earlier than expected. I mean, we still almost went 2 hours, but we'll be sure to get the Olympic preview out. And I was kind of gonna ask you that later. Like, I think we should do a separate episode for the Olympic preview, and I do need to do a little more brushing up on that. But yeah, any closing thoughts before we end this?
Beat Columbus tonight, please. Go into the
yeah. Let's go into the break on a high note. Absolutely. Anyways,
definitely.
Thank you for tuning in. Give us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast platform. If you're watching our beautiful faces on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, notification bell so you don't miss on any podcast content videos from the show. So for Pierce and Dylan, take it easy, y'all, and we will talk hopefully before the Olympics. Peace out, y'all.